Last week, we covered the top 10 characters in Ultimate Alliance 3. If you missed that video, I would encourage you to go back and watch it. I will have the link to it in the description of today's video. But today we're going to dive a little bit deeper and look at very specific items, that being the top 10 abilities in the game. And I have gone ahead and limited this to one ability per character because I didn't want the list to be clogged up with abilities from 3 or 4 different characters, because there are a lot of really good abilities and characters that have multiple good abilities, but this makes sure that enough characters are getting that spotlight. I did have a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the top 10 though, and so let's go ahead and break through those right now. We have Punisher's Smokescreen ability. The reason that this is on the honorable mention list is it has a fairly ample area of effect where any of the grunt type characters in that zone will be discouraged from retaliation and closes the gap fairly quickly and aggressively. We also have Gambit's Dangerous Ground ability in this honorable mentions list because it is very powerful and it's excellent that you can lay out 2 of these. They just have a little bit of a minor duration and you do have to go out of your way to set them up, whereas a lot of the other abilities on this list are abilities that you can use over and over again for a lot of damage. We also have Thanos' Crushing Blow. This ability does very well because it deals massive amounts of damage to the opponent that Thanos grapples, as well as the opponents in the same general area, and still has a very noticeable and powerful detonation even if he misses a character or if there's not a character that he can grab to deal that crushing blow to. However, it has a fairly lengthy animation and there are abilities that do similar things that are just a little bit better at what this one is doing, and we will look at one of those in just a moment. We also have the High Voltage Lines from Miles Morales, and the reason I like this ability is it takes up a large amount of space, and because it has the electrical attribute to it, it will discourage any opponents that are within that area, provided that they're not a mini-boss character, from retaliating against your team. You can then layer in with an ability or synergy from Miles or any other member of your team and wipe out large groups of enemies. And the final honorable mention that we have is Daredevil's Radar Sense. Now, Daredevil's Radar Sense is a really good ability. It's a big contributing factor as to why I value Daredevil as high as I do. And you can make the argument that yes, this ability renders opponents more vulnerable to damage, and by the time they would fall out of the cooldown, you would have had ample time to take them out anyway. But the biggest problem I have with this is it has a fairly lengthy animation to carry out, and it does leave Daredevil pretty vulnerable during that time frame. So this barely missed its way out of the top 10. Speaking of which,
number 10.
This spot goes to Blade and his Bleeding Edge. Now, this is an ability that if you have not played around with, you are missing out, because this will send a glaive hurtling through your opponents, and it bounces and ricochets off of them, even connecting into a couple of those opponents multiple times. It's very potent and very powerful. It tends to work a little bit better in enclosed spaces. The reason it's not higher up on the list is to get the maximum benefit out of it, you've got to charge it up to the maximum potency, and that is a very lengthy process, but it is worth it if you manage to do so.
Number 9.
Luke Cage takes the number 9 spot with the Chain Gang, and this is what I was mentioning with Thanos' Crushing Blow, except Luke Cage does it better. He will swing a chain around which will grab onto a grunt type enemy. He then slams them down on the ground twice, once behind him and once back in forward of him, and it deals massive amounts of damage both with the chain swinging around and the 2 slams that occur if he happens to grapple a grunt type character. In addition, this ability still hits pretty hard even if he doesn't grapple onto a grunt character, and it does execute a little bit quicker while maintaining the same area of effect that it otherwise normally would with the normal chain swing. Very solid ability here.
Number 8.
Captain America's Super Soldiers is up next, and this is incredibly powerful because not only does it have an activation hitbox, but it will buff up your entire team regardless of where they are on the battlefield and cause them to deal more damage over a substantially long period of time. It's very potent and helps you to round out a lot of the more gritty combat sections a lot quicker.
Number 7.
Next up, we have Wolverine's Adamantium Assault, and I love this ability because you can just chain combo it into itself in either the standard ability format or in the synergy ability format over and over and over again and just melt through your opponents. He is a very hard-hitting and very powerful character, and as a bonus, you can tack on a falling aerial to help replenish a little bit of your energy point meter, so you can continue to layer this attack over and over again against your opponents. I mean, just look of the quick work that he makes of the Sentinels and the Infinity Sentinel here in this clip.
Number 6.
Up next, we have Thor with Mjolnir's Might. This is probably one of the best charge type abilities because not only does it rip through your opponents, but it also has the shock attribute applied to it, which means that even if he doesn't completely obliterate the stagger gauges of his opponents, there's still a fair chance of him being able to render them immobile due to the electrical effect that comes off of him, which is an excellent opportunity to follow back either by yourself or with other members of your team and really clean them out. Phenomenal move here.
Number 5.
Breaking into the top half of the list at number 5, we have Phoenix's Cleansing Flames. Now, just keep an eye in the bottom left-hand corner to the energy point gauges of these characters because you will have energy points to spare as long as you have opponents within the area of effect, which is quite large. Now, it may not be the highest damage-dealing ability on this list, but the possibilities that it opens up by consistently replenishing your energy points cannot be understated.
Number 4.
Coming in at number 4, we have Hulk and the Thunderclap. Now, Hulk has a very good kit all around, but the biggest thing that makes the Thunderclap beneficial is Hulk as an up-close brawler character with his standard attacks has an excellent method of extending his range directly out in front of him. This is one of the best abilities for clearing out large groups of small grunt type characters, and even though it's not as beneficial against mighty characters when they are in their blocking animation, you can get a fair amount of damage in there with them as well. It also has a high degree of knockback, so if you're having problems with opponents getting too close for comfort, you can clear them out very easily with one swift clap.
Number 3.
Now, number 3 is Dr. Doom's Loyal Servant ability, and you'll probably wonder based off of the footage that I'm showing why it's the Loyal Servant as opposed to the Spark of Genius, which is what you see me using more frequently there. But the fact of the matter is, the Spark of Genius would not be nearly as powerful as is currently being demonstrated here if it weren't for the extra fighter that is summoned by Dr. Doom and allows him to double his damage output. This is an absolutely critical ability for Dr. Doom's kit. You should always be setting up a Loyal Servant whenever you are in a combat sequence. And apart from eating up a nice area of space and dealing electrical shock damage when summoned, he also mimics whatever Dr. Doom is doing and doubles his damage output. Absolutely critical ability for playing this character to his maximum efficiency. And if you want to see a proof of concept of this, then make sure that you go down to the description and you follow me on Twitch because I will be attempting a New Game Plus speedrun this Saturday. And I'll probably make a community post giving you a time that day once I have a better idea of when that is going to be.
Number 2.
Coming in at number 2, we have Thanos Infinite with his Soul Siphon. And this ability, again, incredibly powerful because it creates a gravity well that draws opponents in and has a very wide range. And if you maximize the charge of this ability, which you have to do in order to get the gravity effect at all, but while those opponents are stuck within that area of effect, they will be siphoned of their health and their energy points, and both of those will be poured directly back into Thanos, allowing him to maintain a constant, relenting assault on his opponents.
Number 1.
And the top ability in the entire game, I talked a little bit about this last week, but it is the Vibranium Slash. This ability is immensely powerful, and you are seeing a little bit of an unfair representation here in the footage that's present because I have some immensely powerful ISOs equipped to Black Panther, but thanks to Skull Spidey, he proved that this move is an absolutely critical speedrun tool because of how it lays waste to the competition. Again, you have to soup him up with ISOs, but that is something that is completely within your right to do. And like I said a moment ago, you'll have an excellent opportunity to see this ability in action if you tune in to the speedrun live stream on Saturday. But that is going to do it. Do you agree with my list of top 10 abilities? If you don't, by all means, feel free to leave me a comment down below as to what you feel like I missed or an ability that you feel that I overlooked. Make sure to leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for that daily variety content. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.